What if what you wear defined your soul? That was the silent accusation hanging over the faithful. In the depths of time, long before churches were built, the unsettling question echoed. Who decided that simple, modest, and repetitive clothing would please the divine? Why would God forbid something as human as expression? Lucifer, the angel of light, was the first to question. Amidst the celestial glow, he lifted his eyes and whispered, "Why hide the brilliance of difference? Is uniformity a sign of purity or of control?" The Old Testament is filled with commandments regulating garments, forbidden fabrics, banned mixtures, fixed details. But the real issue was never the cloth itself, but what it hides, the power to think. What if everything you believe is a carefully stitched lie? In the hush of history, rabbis, priests, and prophets taught that dressing alike is obedience. But Lucifer saw it differently. Uniformity is not holiness, it is forced silence. Why does the pleasure of being different bother the divine so much? He repeated while the world remained blind. In the end, it's not just clothing, it's invisible shackles. And what if this prohibition never came from God, but from men disguised as divinity? Comment below. Do you believe God cares about what we wear or about who we truly are? The garments of sin. In the cold silence of the universe, Lucifer watches. And the question echoes like a muffled thunder. Why couldn't God's chosen people simply wear different clothes? On the surface, the answer seems simple. Modesty, obedience, purity. But behind the fabric, there lies a hidden code. An invisible control stitched into the fibers of faith. Clothing was more than just garments. It was a symbol of submission. Uniforms for the mind. Identical clothes, identical thoughts. Modest clothes, caged desires. Sacred clothes, erased wills. What if it was all just a sophisticated form of domination? Since ancient times, God, or was it man, demanded that people wear rules before they even wore skin. Scripture forbade mixed fabrics, bold patterns, cuts that revealed the body, or ornaments that reflected vanity. But why? What was the Creator so afraid of? Could it be that the true human essence lies in the skin, not in the clothes? Lucifer knew clothing was a wall, an imposed armor meant to suffocate instinct, desire, free will. And as fallen angels watched the earth, the people walked blindly, dressed not in clothes, but in guilt. Why does pleasure disturb the divine so much? That was the question haunting the rebel angel. And at the end of every prayer, the echo remained. Dress as we command or you are impure. But who truly made the rules? God or the men who spoke in his name? The real answer was always stitched between the sacred lines, but few dared to unpick the seams. What if clothing was only the first step toward thought control? Lucifer smiles in the shadows. He knows the veil is heavier than it seems. The revelation that follows goes beyond garments. What truly hides behind divine rules? If this question stirred something in you, drop a like on this video. What you're about to see next will deconstruct you even more. The garment of obedience. On the invisible stage of the cosmos, Lucifer walks among the shadows. He wears no fabric. He wears freedom. Meanwhile, humanity remains trapped in a parade of obedience, each outfit a silent sentence. Did God truly want this? Or were it human hands that wrote the tags on sacred garments? Scripture commanded, "Do not mix linen with wool. Do not dress like the pagans, cover yourselves before the holy." But who made these rules? The creator of the universe or the creator of religion? Clothing wasn't protection. It was censorship, a silent warning that without it man was impure, as if the body sculpted by God were by nature a walking sin. What if the body were the real heresy? Then clothing would be nothing more than a disguise, a way to silence what even prayer cannot erase, the desire to be free. Lucifer watched all this with irony. Shame was not created by angels. It was created by men. Eden had no tailors. Paradise had no fabric. But all it took was a forbidden fruit. And suddenly, consciousness was clothed in guilt. Why does the divine so deeply fear the naked body he himself created? Generation after generation, God's people have clothed themselves in rules, layers, and fear, as if every piece of clothing were a forced prayer, an armor to protect them from their own creator. What if nudity wasn't sin? But the truth religion refuses to see. Lucifer knew clothes don't hide the body. They hide the mind, and the most terrifying part is still to come. The dark secret behind celestial fashion. Who really profits from dressed-up faith? If this revelation stirred something in you, subscribe to the channel right now. The truths that follow will shake you to your core. The business of purity. Among fabrics and prayers, Lucifer whispered a question that echoed through the ages. When did faith become a marketplace for sacred garments? Because behind every tunic, every robe, every proper outfit for God's people, there wasn't just morality, there was profit. The churches set the standards, the stores sold obedience, and the people, blind, bought their own submission. Purity became a product. Modesty became merchandise. and those who didn't dress by the rules were excommunicated by a glance, cast out without a single word spoken. What if holiness had a barcode? The truth is, fear has always been the best display window. They feared offending God, but they were filling human pockets. While altars gleamed with gold, the faithful emptied theirs, buying clothes to make themselves worthy of a heaven that might not even exist. Why would the divine demand a dress code for salvation? Was it really God who created these requirements? Or was it just another invention of men, profiting off the sacred while selling fear with every stitch? Lucifer watched it all and smiled. To him, clothing was neither protection nor sin. It was an invisible shackle. And the question that echoes in the darkness is unavoidable. Is your faith real, or just another label someone forced you to wear? The garments of Judgment Day, are you ready to strip away the lie? If this made you think, share this video with someone who deserves to see beyond what they wear. The veil of lies. Lucifer continued his silent contemplation, as if every fabric covering a believer's body also veiled their doubts. He knew clothing was only the first step. Control began with what you wore, but it ended in the mind. What if dressing up was the first chain used to enslave the soul? The Bible called for modesty, but who truly defined what was modest? Was it God? Or the men who used his name to shape the flock's behavior? Centuries of twisted interpretations, invisible laws stitched with needles of distorted morality. What began as a simple piece of cloth became a symbol of power, judgment, and separation. Who defines the holiness of clothing also defines who deserves heaven. Angels wore no earthly garments, nor did demons need them, and yet humans were taught to believe that a piece of fabric could determine their worth. Lucifer watched and smiled, not in mockery but in pity, because he knew that while people obsessed over appearances, the true sins were committed where no eyes could see, in the heart and in the mind. And so a question pierces the veil of belief. Does hell judge what you wear, or who you are? Get ready, because next, Lucifer will reveal the most hidden secret about the garments of the chosen. You won't want to miss it. If this part made you see the world differently, leave a like. That way, the algorithm knows you're not just another blind follower in the crowd. The invisible code. Clothing has always been more than just fabric. To Lucifer, each garment was an invisible code. A sacred uniform not meant to bring people closer to God, but to push the different ones away. From the very beginning, garments defined castes, separating the pure from the impure, the chosen from the forgotten. What if heaven actually had a fashion manual? Lucifer knew religion had always dressed in hypocrisy. Beneath the robes hid leaders thirsty for power. Men who set dress codes not to please the divine, but to keep their thrones standing atop shamed bodies. The Bible, in its ancient texts, spoke of bans on linen, on mixing fabrics, on adornments and vanity. But who would dare to ask, why would a God who created the universe care about clothing tags? The answers were silenced from the pulpits, but they screamed behind the scenes of faith. Meanwhile, Lucifer watched. The human soul bent far more easily than any fabric. And the great irony? Those who claim not to care about appearance often hide the harshest judgment in their gaze. And have you ever stopped to wonder if your clothes are truly yours, or if they were chosen for you long before you were even born? Let's uncover together how fashion became morality, and how sin hides in the details no one dares to see. Have you shared this video with someone who needs to wake up to these hidden truths? The world deserves to know not everything is what it seems. Spread the doubt, the style of sin. While churches preached purity, fabrics became invisible bars. Every stitch, every embellishment, every color, a silent warning. You're sinning, and you might not even know it. To Lucifer, it was fascinating. It wasn't the body that offended the divine, but the way the body was dressed. Why would the Creator condemn clothing if he himself created nakedness? Behind morality, a dirty game was hidden. The more people obsessed over the outside, the less they questioned what was happening inside the temples. Who made that rule? God or men? Long garments, shapeless tunics, forbidden adornments, blended fabrics condemned. Yet while the faithful trembled in fear of judgment, the leaders of faith adorned their own bodies with luxury. Gold, purple, silk, power. Lucifer whispered in the silence, the shame they taught you didn't come from God. It was sold to you by man. And what if the real sin isn't the clothes you wear, but the guilt they taught you to feel? Get ready to dive into an even darker secret, the hidden cost of modesty, and who's truly profiting from it. Did you enjoy this dark dive? Then hit that like, my love. Show the algorithm that you love uncovering the hidden. And together we can go even deeper. The price of modesty. What is modesty really? A sign of humility or a tool of control? Lucifer already knew. The more people dressed to hide, the more they revealed their weaknesses. Does God truly care about fabrics, stitches, and cuts? Or is that just another human invention disguised as virtue? In the Bible, the command was clear: simple, modest clothing, free from extravagance. But behind the scenes of great religions, the reality told a different story. While the faithful wore gilt, the leaders wore gold. Why does the sacred condemn shine? Yet its representatives shine brighter than kings. The more modest the clothing, the more the gaze filled with lust. Is the body the true villain? Or is it the desire they try to hide that frightens the heavens? The devil didn't have to whisper much. He just had to watch. Those who preached modesty the loudest were the ones most lost in filthy secrets. And what if the real sin isn't in the clothes, but in the eyes of the one who judges them? The question becomes even more unsettling. Who created shame? And who feeds on it? If this stirred something in you, share this video with someone who needs to open their eyes. Let's spread these questions across the world. Who created shame? Shame. That feeling that burns hotter than fire, yet leaves no marks on the skin. Lucifer asks, was it God who created shame? Or was it man who stitched it, thread by thread, into his own soul? Since Eden, a fig leaf covered what the divine deemed unforgivable. But who planted that seed? The serpent or fear? And what if sin isn't in the clothing, but in the eyes of the beholder? Religions demanded veils, tunics, robes, burdens. But behind every piece of fabric, there's always a silent, stifled, uncontrollable desire. Why so much fear of the body? If it was shaped by God's own hands? Did the Creator make a mistake in his sculpture? What morality calls modesty, nature calls instinct. And in this dirty game between faith and flesh, the one who always wins is control. Lucifer knows. Shame is the invisible shackle, a method more efficient than any chain. And what if freeing yourself from shame is the first step toward understanding true freedom? The kind of revelation that unmasks, breaks dogmas, and leaves behind a question no preacher dares to answer. If that sparked a doubt within you, hit the like right now. Show the algorithm you don't settle for ready-made answers, the last veil of the lie, and in the end, only silence remained. Lucifer, sitting among the ruins of morality, stares into the void and whispers, "What you wore. Was it your choice or someone else's demand?" For centuries, faith stitched rules into the fabric of the soul. It told us to cover skin, hide desire, suppress instinct. But it never explained why. The real issue was never about clothing. It was always about power. Who decides what is sacred? Who defines what is pure? And who profits from your obedience? What if prohibition was just an ancient method to ensure you'd never realize you were free? Clothing became a uniform, the body a prison, and the soul a hostage. Does God care more about what you wear or what lives in your heart? Lucifer needs no temples, no scriptures. He only needs you to ask questions. And once doubt is born, faith's control begins to die. So I ask you, what you're wearing today, is it your identity or your sentence? The answer, perhaps, will never be written. Now it's your turn. What matters more, appearance or intention? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your voice is what matters most in this court of truth.